Good evening. My name is Adam Baumgartner, and the topic that drove the interview portion of this assignment dealt specifically with leadership and special education. And this was a unique topic for me. I've always been or had a passion for learning more about leadership. I've been involved in a variety of team environments as a player, as a coach, and obviously leadership plays a pretty big part in obtaining the success that you want to obtain in these types of settings. Obviously, I've been involved in classroom based settings where you always want, as an educator, folks, the young people that you work with, to acquire those leadership type characteristics that down the road will make them successful at what they do. I've been involved in business-based settings as well, where leadership is the foundation that promotes the structure for success to occur. So I've always had or been associated with settings that deal specifically with leadership, where leadership has a significant influence on what's achieved within those areas. Special education, on the other hand, is a topic that, compared to leadership, I don't know a whole lot about. I've seen classroom-based applications, but from an administrative role, there are definitely areas that I know I need to improve at. So this was kind of a unique topic for me to look at, and one that I think was driven specifically by a number of the abstract assignments that we've completed already in class. I was pretty unique in what I was looking for in these assignments, and I specifically wanted to find out more about special education as it applies to leadership and the role that leadership plays in driving a positive change within that environment. Many of the articles that I looked at during these assignments dealt specifically with that, the roles of leadership in special education, specifically from an administrative standpoint. So what do principals, what do assistant principals, and what do dean of students, what type of characteristics from a leadership standpoint do they need to drive that special education environment? As always with these types of articles, there was a lot of data that supported what gaps existed, what type of structure was needed to fill those gaps. So a lot of that we'll talk about as we progress, and a lot of that dealt with specifically with a variety of the interview questions that I asked. From a big picture standpoint, from a foundational standpoint, leadership and special education can be broken down into three components. Operationally, from an operational standpoint, dealing with leadership, do administrators feel that their role is a big picture type role? Do they need to provide the structure and the foundation from which all other resources and all other successes can be derived from? Is it more contextual based, more leadership in regards to classroom applications? What do leaders and what do administrators think in relation to that role? Or is it more related to foundational type applications from a leadership standpoint? Do administrators feel that their role is to close gaps, their role is to provide programs that create opportunities for that experience to be more beneficial for the folks involved in it? All three of these components dealt specifically with best practices. What types of practice support development in these three areas? What support is needed? What needs need to be addressed specifically? And what comprehensive structure can be utilized to create an achievement in that classroom that can be maximized? The administrator that I interviewed during this assignment, I felt was unique. This individual has been involved in education for 31 years. They've had a variety of different roles, ranging from classroom teacher in general education to head football coach to assistant middle school principal, head middle school principal, and director of student-based services within the districts that they've worked in. So they have a variety of different experiences that I thought were beneficial. One additional experience was the professional development. 31 years is a long time to be involved in public education, and this time span that they were involved parallels the evolution of special education. So they've seen the highs and lows, the trends that have existed, positive and negatives associated with the processes. So from a leadership standpoint, I felt like this individual had the background I was looking for to gain some insight, as well as a comprehensive understanding of the process, just because they've been involved in this discipline for so long. So one simple question I asked, and I just wanted to utilize this question to kind of create a foundation to work from. It was very basic in nature, and I asked, what core competencies are required for positive leadership. It's really simple. They talked about 3 specific things. Leaders provide structure, they provide objectives, they provide support, allowing folks to be successful. So from a structural standpoint, they provide the framework for people to experience success. They provide opportunities for folks to have ownership in the process, ownership in their development, ownership in school-wide initiatives. So providing opportunities for people to have the ability to take part in those initiatives is critical. Leaders also encourage and provide opportunities for folks to be proactive. Instilling that in the culture is critical. Instilling the need for individuals to constantly want to improve, constantly want to find better ways to reach kids is a must-have. The next progression of questioning dealt with leadership in the area of general education compared to special education. What similarities exist? What differences exist? And one of the main components of their answer dealt with the needs between special education and general education. The student-based needs, the teacher-based needs, the support-based needs are different. Therefore, the structure is going to be different for support. The resources allocated to those environments are going to be different, and the overall support provided to those environments is going to be different. At the end of the day, those 2 areas, special education and general education, are different because of the social development that's required. In many cases, folks within special education and general education have different social needs. They have different, obviously, academic needs, and they have different personal needs. So the biggest difference between these 2 environments deals with the needs of all those folks involved, and the methods utilized to meet those needs specifically. With that being said, I did ask a question. I wanted to know one specific example of leadership application in special education. And the answer I got was pretty unique. The individual told me, hey, obviously you've been on the OD website, look at a district-based report card, and in that report card you'll see the progress component of that district, and one portion that is there with all the other levels of student engagement, levels of student achievement, deals with the group identified with special needs, and the grade associated with the progress of that group within that report card will dictate the leadership needed by the administration. And in many cases, as we've already talked about, this is need-based. What are the driving factors that will improve that grade, improve the achievement of those folks within that specific level? Is it something specific to professional development? Are the teachers that are the applicators of that environment, do they need something specific? Do they need a professional development that differs from the general education teachers, that provides them with the tools needed to be successful? Is the school district as a whole, are they in compliance with the state and federal mandates that drive special education? Is there enough support? Are there enough aides? Are there enough teachers specialized in the areas where those students' needs occur most? Is this process relationship driven? Are the relationships in place between the school district and the community, the parents, the students, the teachers, all the support staff, that drive an environment where success can be acquired? From an application standpoint, leadership, as we've talked about in the initial components of this presentation, dealt with 3 main areas. So this was something I wanted to know from the individual I interviewed. What do you think from an operational standpoint, from an operational application standpoint, is your greatest responsibility as a leader, as an administrator within a school? So if operationally, it was compliance. Are they, from a school district, are all the state and federal mandates being met? From a contextual standpoint, is achievement high in the area that special education is taking place? In the classroom, are the practical methods used to drive those classrooms being applied in that environment? Foundationally, what development exists? This can be school-wide development. What gaps occur and what programs are being utilized to fill those gaps and for success to be achieved? And then I asked the individual to rank this. So based on your experience as a leader, your experience as an administrator in a leadership-based role, what role do you view as being the most important? It was simple. All of them are important, but number 1, number 2, number 3, I asked them to rank what they felt were the most important, and so on and so forth. So ranked in order of importance, number one was the operational leadership. That involves the structure. Is the structure being provided in the special education setting for all else to grow from, for all else to drive and develop from? So operationally, the administrator that I interviewed thought that was their role from a leadership standpoint. Is the structure in place for success to be achieved? The second most important factor dealt with foundational applications. Are they providing the correct programs to meet the needs of all those folks involved, whether it's students, teachers, aides, everybody involved? Are they proactive in finding opportunities to increase performance, increase achievement through programs available and resources available? And the third most important factor dealt with contextual relationships. They felt they had, out of these top three, the least responsibility in the classroom-based setting. That was, something specific to the educator or the individual applicable to that situation. So that was more classroom-based. Obviously, all three of these were important, but they were more big picture in nature. And the classroom-based setting, the teacher was the driving force behind the leadership in that environment. Okay, so the individual I interviewed, as we've talked about in depth, from a special education standpoint, support drives this leadership, and resources, funding, programs, teaching applications. Are they able to provide and acquire the resources needed for success to be achieved, for student achievement to be maximized in this setting? Another important question I asked, and I thought this was kind of unique, and I asked them specifically, what doesn't work in special education, and what trends have shown you as an administrator or teacher of things that don't work, that aren't applicable. And what was really unique, I thought, and this individual talked in depth about losing an opportunity. The special education process when dealing with the development of a young person is an opportunity. You don't want to lose that opportunity. It's an opportunity to do a variety of things besides educate that individual to the best ability. It's an opportunity to form a positive relationship with a parent, with a guardian, with a grandparent. It's an opportunity to solidify communication, to ensure that lines of communication are always open, and most importantly, it's an opportunity to build a sense of community. So taking advantage of that is a definite priority. Okay. And the final question I asked involved, would a background in special education make you a better leader? And the answer I got was pretty unique. From an operational standpoint, this individual thought that no, a special education background wouldn't necessarily benefit them, because the operational understanding is kind of a prerequisite to being an administrator. You have to have the knowledge on the state and federal mandates, the processes, the laws that govern special education in general. From a contextual standpoint, what type of background, or would a background in special education make this experience in leadership more effective? Yes. Having the ability to be in a classroom as an educator and work specifically with special education students would provide you, and this is what the individual told me, empathy. You would have empathy for what those folks were going through, what relationships existed that drove that environment. So from a contextual standpoint, yes, having a background would be beneficial. From a foundational standpoint, would having a background in special education make it more effective? And the answer was yes again. Understanding support, understanding the applications that drive the support would, from an experience standpoint, provide administrator or leader with the foundation needed to be successful and continue to be successful. Overall, we're winding down on time. Positive experience, learned a lot about this relationship, and hopefully it will help me continue on as an administrator in the future. Thank you.